Good afternoon, honorable members. Let's observe a moment for silent prayer or meditation. Thank you. Please be seated. The secretary will read the order.
Debate on vote number 16, Basic Education Appropriation Bill.
I now recognize the Honourable the Minister of Basic Education.
Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee of Basic Education, my co-pilot, Deputy Minister, honorable members, fellow South Africans, molweni. Let me begin with the tale of two 10-year-olds. The first is Lindiwe. She attended an ECD center, structured learning, qualified
To ask the table to just confirm. And for now, we just suspend business for a minute or two. My apologies, honourable members.
Chair.
Honourable member.
Thanks, Chair. I'm just questioning air quality in here. It's a bit
Stuffy.
bit tight, yeah.
Yes. Well, it
Thanks.
would seem we have a multitude of problems. But we can ask that also be turned down. Is the plat? Okay. Thank you. Order, honourable members. Order, honourable members. The virtual platform is connected, and as we speak, we sort of bringing down the temperature slightly. So let's do that in the house as well. Debate-wise, honourable Minister, I'm going to ask you, if you don't mind, to just start afresh. We now know Lindiwe and Nelson in the house, but on the virtual platform we don't. So please just start from the beginning.
I thought I introduced them so well, Chair. For the purposes of the members on the platform, I wanted to tell the House about the tale of two 10-year-olds. The first one being Lindiwe, who's attended an ECD center, structured learning, qualified practitioners, and proper nutrition. By age 10, she reads with understanding, solves mathematics problems confidently, and her future is bright. The second is Nelson. He's just as bright, just as deserving, but did not attend an ECD center. He first encounters a book for the first time in grade 1, and by age 10, he cannot yet read for meaning, but he must write the same assessments as Lindiwe. The curriculum moves forward, and Nelson is left behind. And members, the argument I'm making here is that over 90% of children in South Africa are mostly Nelsons and not Lindiwe's. This is the education injustice of our time. And so the question before this House today is whether the implementation of this budget vote helps more children like Nelson receive strong foundations that children like Lindiwe already have. Because strong foundations are the difference between a child who enters the future and a child who's locked out of it. And that's why I tabled the budget vote 16 under the theme, Strong Foundations for Strong Futures. In a few short weeks, this administration will mark 2 years in office. We inherited weak accountability, infrastructure backlogs, procurement failures, declining public trust. In over 2 years, this administration has chosen a different path. We have chosen reform, discipline, and delivery that must be felt in classrooms, teacher support, and learner outcomes. This budget is tabled under severe fiscal pressure, but the future of South Africa cannot wait for perfect conditions. It supports our core priorities, quality ECD, foundational literacy and numeracy, inclusive education, teacher development, school safety and infrastructure, and stronger governance. Chair, if we want Nelson to keep up before he's left behind, we cannot start in grade 4 or in grade 12. We must start earlier. That is why early childhood development is central to this budget vote. ECD is where inequality either begins to narrow or it begins to harden. Last year, we set ourselves an ambitious target of registering 10,000 ECD centers in 1 year. Many believed that it could not be done, but I'm happy to announce that we registered more than 13,300 ECD centers, exceeding our target by 33%. ECD registration has grown by 200 between 2021 and 2026. This means 1.2 million children now have access to registered ECD programs and will enter school better prepared than before. And I'm also pleased to announce that the ECD nutrition pilot has entered implementation. The contract was advertised in March 2026, and we will soon pilot ECD nutrition in centers in the Eastern Cape. This responds directly to the Thrive by 5 findings that 7% of South Africa's children are stunted due to malnutrition. These interventions mean more Nelsons will start schools ready to learn. Members, emerging international evidence points to developmental risks from excessive screen exposure in early childhood. I'm therefore announcing that we will develop a national screen time guidance for children aged between 2 and 6 to help protect the development of language, attention, memory, and social skills. We are also reviewing the 2004 white paper on e-education and developing practical national guidance on the use of AI in our classrooms. Our approach is clear. The machine may assist, but the teacher must decide, the learner must think, and the system must protect. Honorable members, compulsory grade R is one of the most important reforms in democratic South Africa, but implementation has a cost. Aligning qualified grade R practitioner salaries with foundation phase educators while appointing additional grade R teachers will cost approximately 10 billion rand over the medium term. National Treasury has not allocated the full funding for this. We have therefore redirected 800 million from the ECD grant to address the immediate grade R pressures. This is not ideal, but doing nothing would be far worse. We will be continuing engaging with National Treasury for sustainable long-term funding. We are also putting the regulations in place to support responsible implementation of the Bela Act. Draft regulations on admissions, school capacity, and learner pregnancy have already been published for public comment. Further draft regulations on teacher development, home education, notice on SGB elections, and amongst others, will be published for comment during this financial year. Work to amend the South African Schools Act to recognize and regulate online schools is also underway. I'm also happy to announce that Cabinet has approved the Children's Amendment Bill, which will now proceed through Parliament. It is critical to a more efficient and a child-centered ECD system. And reform is now being translated into law that make delivery easier for the child, the parent, the school, and the teacher. Fellow South Africans, a child experiences financial mismanagement in an overcrowded classroom, a vacant teacher post, or a textbook that never arrives. In September 2024, I informed the public of the results of a financial analysis we had initiated into provincial education departments. The findings were deeply concerning. The analysis projected that 3 of the provincial education departments will fall into the red by 2025-2026, and 7 in the outer years of the MTEF. Those risks are now materializing in KwaZulu-Natal, in the Free State, and in the Northern Cape, with others growing pressure. Today, I'm announcing a multidisciplinary recovery technical support team of experienced advisors to support provinces on budget planning, financial analysis, and school resourcing. When a provincial education finances fail, learners suffer. Provinces must also ensure that norms and standards funding allocations are paid to schools on time. These funds are not optional. They are not a favor to schools. They are the lifeline of teaching and learning. And where payments are overdue, provinces must act urgently. A learner must not become the shock absorber of provincial cash flow failures. National government will still strengthen its oversight role. Colleagues, we are strengthening learning where it matters the most. For foundation phase this year, 10,000 foundation phase teachers will receive targeted literacy and numeracy training, while we will refresh the implementation of the National Reading and Literacy Strategy. But policy alone does not improve outcomes. Quality teaching does. Therefore, teachers cannot spend more time filling in forms than teaching children. So I'm pleased to announce that the National Education and Training Council has submitted proposals to reduce unnecessary bureaucracy, and the department will soon issue directives to provinces to drastically reduce reporting tools. To the teachers of South Africa, we have heard you, Sinivile. Every hour return to teaching is an hour return to children. Members, the Funza Lushaka bursary program has also shifted decisively towards foundation phase education. In 2025, 42% of Funza Lushaka bursaries were allocated to foundation phase education, and I'm pleased to announce that in 2026, this has increased to 55%. The review of the formula used to allocate teachers to schools is also expected to be concluded in this financial year, and this will make sure that teachers are allocated to the foundation phase. If we are serious about literacy and numeracy, the earliest grades must receive the strongest support. Fellow South Africans, the next phase of reform must also change in how we measure success. We must applaud the class of 2025 for achieving a pass rate of 88%, the highest in the country's history. But for too long, the national conversation on quality has been reduced to a single mark. And in fact, therefore, I'm announcing that going forward, the department will rank provincial performance through an inclusive basket of indicators focused on quality. This quality basket will include an overall pass percentage, bachelor pass attainment, distinction, participation, and performance in gateway subjects such as mathematics, physical science, and accounting, as well as learner retention. This will give South Africans a more honest picture of quality, participation, progression, and subject depth. Because for Lindiwe and Nelson, a credible matric certificate must mean more than just survival. It must mean readiness for the next step in life. Chair, we must also salute South Africa's quality markers who in 2024 detected anomalies in a small number of scripts in Gauteng. The breach was quickly identified, traced, and those implicated are now facing disciplinary and criminal processes. The department has also implemented strengthened safety measures in line with the recommendations that were made by the independent panels. Honorable members, I'm also pleased to announce that this year, South Africa will conduct the second South African systemic evaluation to measure national literacy and numeracy competencies in grade 3. We want to move towards annual rollout of these types of assessment. We are also strengthening mother tongue-based bilingual education assessments in rolling out the general education certificate program to strengthen pathway planning and skills development. Together, these reforms will provide a clearer data and stronger tools for intervention. School safety and infrastructure remain urgent priorities. We've eradicated 99.9% of the pit toilets identified in the 2018 SAFE Initiative backlog, with mop-ups already underway with the one remaining project in construction. I am pleased that we are closing the last project of this backlog, but angry that it has taken us this long. Project management in public service must improve. There may still be pit toilets that may have been missed in 2018 and those that have been emerged after 2018. And therefore, we are allocating 16 billion rand to the education infrastructure grant for safety, sanitation, overcrowding reduction and rural infrastructure. Honorable members, corruption destroys state capacity. In education, corruption steals directly from children and teachers. It robs families of strong futures. That is why integrity in procurement is critical. Serious concerns were raised regarding the foundation phase catalog process, which affects learning materials of our youngest learners in grade 1 to 3. I've considered advice from National Treasury and will not preempt any outcome. However, there were serious enough concerns that were raised that require independent testing. While Treasury's consideration on the matter was inconclusive, it raised a concern about our own department's deviation from ordinary competitive bidding processes. And I'm therefore announcing that the department will be launching an independent external investigation in accordance to Treasury advice into the foundation phase national catalog process. This investigation must be conducted urgently by a reputable independent law firm with expertise, credibility, and capacity to withstand the scrutiny. This is about ensuring that quality textbooks reach learners on time through a lawful, fair, transparent process. Corruption in education is never victimless, neither is weak governance. Both are ultimately paid for by children. Chair, Budget Vote 16 allocates 38.2 billion rand in this current financial year. 11 for school nutrition, 16 billion for school infrastructure, 4.6 billion for ECD, 477 million for mathematics, science, and technology, 307 million for learners with disabilities. These allocations only matter if they reach learners quickly, efficiently, and transparently. Delivery must be felt in the classroom. Honorable Chairperson, history will not judge us by how many speeches were delivered or how many plans we announced. It will judge us by whether children could read better, count better, learn in safety, eat at a school, and leave school with strong futures because we governed well. This administration, Chairperson, chooses reform over excuses, delivery over slogans, and children over petty party politics. Stronger foundations, Chairperson, will produce stronger schools, stronger communities, and a stronger nation. And so our task is clear. We want to infuse quality into our education system. And this is precisely why we are even reviewing the way in which we are announcing matric results, because we want to show South Africans that we want to consistently move the needle towards quality at all times. And I want to assure the people of South Africa that in us, you have advocates for your children. In us, you have people who will make sure that we are not only providing access to education, but also we are producing quality in our education. So our task is clear: build the foundations, build them early, build them well, and build them for every single child, because stronger foundations prepare children for the future. Strong foundations build strong futures. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. The next speaker is the Honorable Mayamela.
Modulasetulo yo a hlomphegago, maloko a palamente ao a hlomphegago, tona ya thuto ya motheo ye e hlomphegago le motlatša tona wa thuto ya motheo yo a hlomphegago. Baeng ba ba hlomphegago, badudi go tee ba Afrika Borwa. Le hono re ema go thekga kgetho ya tekanyetšo yeo e bolelago thwi ka bokamoso bja setšhaba sa rena, bokamoso bja bana ba rena, dikolo tša rena le demokrasi ya rena. Kgetho ye ya tekanyetšo e tšweletšwa nakong ye bohlokwa kudu leetong la rena la demokrasi. ANC ka mehla e kwešišitše gore thuto ke sebetša se maatla ntweng kgahlanong le bodiji, go se lekalekane, tlhokego ya mešomo le tlhabologo. For this reason, the 2026 State of the Nation Address correctly identified education as central to improving foundational learning, strengthening state capacity, and advancing equality. These priorities are not abstract aspirations. They are a continuation of a historic mission of the democratic state to dismantle the structural inequalities inherited from apartheid and to build a capable developmental state that places the needs of the poor at the center of governance. The Portfolio Committee on Basic Education, therefore, welcomes the strategic direction of Vote 16, which allocates 38.2 billion in 2026-2027, increasing to 42 billion by 2028-2029 to support quality basic education for all learners. Honorable members, at the heart of this budget lies the urgent responsibility to confront the foundational learning crisis in literacy and numeracy. The ANC-led government recognizes that without strong foundations in reading, writing, and mathematics, meaningful transformation in education cannot be achieved. The committee therefore strongly supports the department's commitment to improving foundational skills through structured interventions in early grade reading and mathematics. We further note the department's objective of improving reading proficiency in underperforming rural and township schools through the early grade reading assessment tool, with a focus on phonics, fluency, comprehension, and word recognition. Research consistently demonstrates that children learn best in a language they understand. The committee therefore welcomes the incremental rollout of mother tongue-based bilingual education up to grade 7 over the medium-term expenditure framework period. This intervention is both educationally sound and socially transformative. It improves comprehension, strengthens cognitive development, and increases learner retention, particularly among children from historically marginalized communities whose languages and cultures were systematically undermined under colonialism and apartheid. The ANC has always championed the recognition of indigenous languages as instruments of empowerment, dignity, and nation building. We therefore commend the department for allocating resources to train teachers in bilingual teaching methodologies and to provide mathematics, science, and technology support materials in home languages alongside English. The committee also notes the allocation of 95 million over the medium term to support implementation of this strategy. However, Minister, implementation must move with urgency. Language policy cannot remain progressive on paper while classrooms continue to operate without adequate support materials, trained educators, and curriculum alignment. Provinces must ensure that schools receive the necessary support to implement structured reading programs effectively and consistently. This budget must also be understood through the lens of social justice. More than 3 decades into democracy, apartheid-era inequalities continue to shape the realities of schooling in South Africa. The ANC inherited an education system deliberately designed to exclude the Black majority from quality learning opportunities. Learners in historically disadvantaged communities still face overcrowded classrooms, inadequate sanitation, infrastructure backlogs, limited digital access, and shortages of teaching resources. We therefore note the continued support for school nutrition with 33.9 billion allocated over the medium term to provide nutritional meals to approximately 9.9 million learners in 19,800 schools annually. These interventions are not acts of charity. They are instruments of equality, dignity, and redress. A child cannot learn effectively while hungry, unsafe, or studying in a collapsing infrastructure. The committee therefore calls for equitable resource allocation that intentionally prioritizes poor rural, township, and no-fee schools. Chairperson, during the Portfolio Committee's oversight visit to Limpopo and Mpumalanga, the committee witnessed firsthand the realities confronting many schools, especially special needs schools, rural schools, and ECD centers. While we observed inspiring examples of resilience, leadership, and community participation, we also encountered severe infrastructure backlogs, unsafe sanitation, overcrowded classrooms, unreliable water and electricity supply, and serious learner transport challenges. The committee visited schools including Yingisani Special School for the Deaf, Busile School for the Blind and Deaf, Situtulane School, Kamakuku Inclusive School, and Silinduguhle Special School, where educators continue to deliver quality education under difficult conditions. These schools highlighted the urgent shortages of specialized educators, therapists, psychologists, sign language interpreters, assistive devices, and suitable learner transport for children with disabilities. Honorable Minister, in some cases, learners with disability travel several hours daily and have to leave their homes before 4 o'clock in the morning simply to access education. And these are children that are disabled, these are young children. This reality demands urgent investment in learner transport, boarding facilities, inclusive infrastructure, and specialized support service. Honorable members, we are serious about restoring foundational learning. Then early childhood development must become the centerpiece of our educational transformation agenda. The ANC government has correctly recognized ECD as a national priority because inequality begins, as you said, Minister, long before a child enters grade 1. Children who are denied nutrition, stimulation, and quality early learning opportunities are disadvantaged from early beginning of their educational journey. Chairperson, no education system can rise above the quality, availability, and morale of its teachers. South Africa faces a growing crisis in educator recruitment and retention, particularly in rural communities, township schools, and no-fee schools, where shortages are more severe. The ANC has consistently maintained that teachers are nation builders and critical agents of social transformation. Declining personnel capacity therefore threatens curriculum delivery, learner performance, and the sustainability of foundational learning reforms. The committee therefore calls for accelerated teacher recruitment, improved workforce planning, and expanded support for new educators entering the profession. We welcome the continued investment in Funza Lushaka bursary scheme. However, bursaries alone are insufficient if newly qualified teachers remain unemployed. While schools experience severe shortages, we urge stronger coordination between national and provincial departments to ensure the timely placement of qualified educators, especially in underserved communities. The committee also notes with concern the projected decline in funded personnel posts within the department over the medium term. At the time when the system requires stronger institutional capacity, reductions in personnel must not undermine service delivery, oversight, curriculum support, and educational planning. Honorable Minister, you speak about how you are busy registering ECD centers. We must move beyond registration. We must now see quality ECD centers in our communities. What you also don't mention then is how you have promised this parliament that by March you would have eradicated pit latrine toilets. To this date, you have not fully eradicated pit latrine toilets. This budget, Honorable Minister, presents an opportunity to rebuild the foundation of our education system. It is an opportunity to ensure that every child can read with meaning, calculate with confidence, learn in a language they understand, access quality early learning opportunities, and be taught by qualified, supported educators in safe and dignified schools. Let us therefore move decisively to restore foundational learning, strengthen educator recruitment, and advance equality through education. The Portfolio Committee on Basic Education supports the budget vote 16. I thank you.
The Honorable Mkhize.
Mgcini sihlalo umkhonto wesizwe uzokhuza nanku umshophi obhidlangile wokubulawa kwezikole zemfundo sisekelo uANC womhlonishwa uRamaphosa neDA. Zibonile zonke izikole emakhaya, emalokishini nasemaplazini. Indlu yegagu iyanetha. Ubongameli akungangamlomo. Sihlalo uhulumeni weANC kamhlonishwa uRamaphosa neDA uzulubulale nya izikole zikahulumeni. Sisho njengoba siyazi ukuthi lezi ikole zaqala ukubolwa ngenxa yokugantshulwa kwezimali kusukela ngomhla ka2017 unyaka ka2017 kungena uthuma mina kanti uzoqeda nya ngazo zonke izikhungo zikahulumeni. Ngakho bantu bakithi sisazwa ikhoti imbenge yomile uma ngabe iDA noANC sesemandleni. Ongakwazi lokho engikushoyo akaye kulezi ikole elandelayo. Ikwadenge high school kwaNongoma Ward 3 lapho khona awothisha nabafundi besikhulula emgodini onempethu. IkwaMagwaza primary school isemthonjaneni ngaphansi kwenkatha. Uzofika lapho kunendonga ezibonile
Honorable member. Just hold on for a moment. Please take your seat. I have a hand there at the back. Honorable member, why do you want to be recognized?
House Chair, please intervene. The member is drowning in his own voice that we cannot even hear him.
No, honorable member. That's not a point of order. 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 Honorable members. Order. Honorable member, continue as you see fit.
Hamba uye kwaMagwaza primary school emthonjaneni ngaphansi kwenkatha. Uzofika lapho izikole ezifunda endonga enzodaka ewayo neroof ewayo. Hamba uye emgangeni high school uzoyithola lapha eNaembo. Iroof yahumbulwa isiphepho. Bangalungisa balethe imjondelo emhlophe ewu4. Kwabona yonke into ama-desk nezincwadi ngaphakathi. Lo hulumeni weGNU. Noma hamba yamathuba esizwe uzofika iklasi nabafundi aba100 iklasi ngalinye akwakhiwe lutho lapha. Noma yako kumhlophe eMlazi kwekumhlophe high school uzofika lapha kunomjondolo oyistaff room sothisha nabafundi kule GNU le. Noma ke hamba eMpumalanga kumbe eEastern Cape noma uye eLimpopo uye eNorthern Cape noma uye eNorthwest konakele zonke izifundazwe. Inhlekelele enkuluka sihlalo ukuthi alukho uhlelo lokuhlenga lezi izikole eminyakeni emithathu ezayo. Ngokusho kwaMinister nangiphambi kwami, ukulungisa zonke izikole ezibesimeni sazo udinga 140 billion rand. Kodwa kule period ka3 years the MTF kuzothola only 49 billion rand. Kukutshela ukuthini for the next 3 years kune gap ka90 billion rand. Kuthini lokho kwena? Kuthi izikole ezoqhubeka zibole kakhulu kunamanje ngoba le gap ka90 billion rand ayivaliwe. So asikuvumeke bakwethu ukuthi uma ngabe iDA nalo ANC kaRamaphosa sesemandleni sizazobola izikole. Sibona isizulu.
Honorable member, just take your seat once again. Honorable member, why do you want to be recognized?
Thanks very much. There's no Ramaphosa here. Member must call the name of President Ramaphosa. Thank you. Rule 82. Wait. Rule 82. Rule 82. Rule 82. Rule 82. Rule 8.
Honorable member. Honorable member. Order. Honorable members. Honorable members, may I just firstly say this? It might just be that some learners is watching this debate. Let's try and set an orderly example for them at least. Honorable member, I did not necessarily hear you just refer to Ramaphosa, but this is a general reminder to the House that we don't refer to members as well as the president and members of his executive who are not members of parliament by surname or name only, but by either Mr. or President or Minister. Please continue.
Sibona izizumbulu zika 270 million rand ezihlonzelwe ukukhokhela ilenti. Eyani lento engaka bakwethu? Okobeka le mali ifakelwa lezi igebengu ngakhongolose. Ngoba siyawazi umkhuba wazo, wofaka imali ngenhla beyihoshe ngezansi. Komele ke sibheke ukuthi imiphi lemkhulu ukuthi ngakhongolose ezothola lo 270 million rand ngamalenti. Vimbani bantu bakithi kungenjalo kuyaphela inyanga ezemfundo. Siyabona futhi izizumbulu zika 4.6 billion ezifakwe kwimfundo sekelo yodado. Kodwa kuvela ukuthi kwiplani yezemfundo akuvela ukuthi zingaki ikhungo ezokwakhelwa ama-toilet azonika ingane isidingo angakhandi impethu. Futhi abangakawutholi usizo kulolu xhaso njengasendoda bona bawusizakala kanjani. Akuvela ukuthi omama ababheke odado ezindlini ezivuzayo abazakhe ngodaka bazokwakhelwa kanjani izakhiwo ezonika abantwana isidimo esibafanele. Lokhu kuveza ukuthi vele ngeke kwakhiwe kusikwa nje elinye ivenge elizotikadikwa abaholi bakakhongolose. Ngandani bantu bakithi nantu ukhetho selufikile akusekude phambili. Kubuhlungu kubona sihlalo ukuthi nkathi singenzi kahle kweze science ezibalweni ezokuxhakaxhaka nokuxhumana. Lo hulumeni ukubona kufanele ukwehlisa uxhaso lukaFundza Lushaka ngemali engango 306 million rand. Emuva kwaloko yena lo hulumeni uzothi shoda ngothisha balezi ifundo. Uthi abaphambene kodwa ekhanda. Kuyimanje othisha bayatoyiza kwaZulu-Natal bafuna imisebenzi. Kodwa asikho isabelo mali esibhekene nokuqashwa kothisha kulo MTF yenu. Kodwa wona futhi lo mkhakha uthi unesidingo nqangi sokukhanda imisebenzi. Kungani uhulumeni ka-ANC kaMnumzana uRamaphosa ne-DA ningaqashi lezi ngane efunde kabuhlungu NSFAS nangempesheni yogogo kodwa ikhala zibe zikhona. Ayikhulunywa nhlobo-ke leyo kunyuswa kwamaholo othisha kule budget esikhuluma ngayo. Hey nantu ukhetho selufikile. Khiphani le mihumuheko yamasela khona umkhonto uzolungisa izwe. Siyabuza ukuthi lesengezo sika 500 million rand ngaphansi kohlelo lokudla izingane esikoleni kufinyelelwe kanjani kulona ngoba kunegidi zeyingane njengamanje mina sengakutholi ukudla. Kuyimanje lesigila zabantwana asikutholi ukudla emalokishini, emapulazini nasemakhaya. So lencosana ke yemali nifakile nithi akudle yuphi ingane kungadli yiphi ingane. Ngokufanayo asikho isingezo mali esicacile ngaphansi kohlelo lokuthutha kwabantwana abahlala kude nezikole. Amabhasi ayinqwaba afile amanye azikorokoro aze amiswe ngetshe emaphandleni ngenxa yokunganakekelwa. Manje njengoba kungenasengezo kule mali nifuna ingane zezife niqala khona uzokhipha le mali minister. Bantu bakithi vikelana abantwana benu kulolu khetho oluzayo. Awaphuma amasela angenanembeza. Uma ubheka ipulani ka-education ka-26-27 ubona lokho olandelayo. Leli pulani lakhelwe ngaphansi kwezimo zokuqagela ngoba alukho ulwazi oluphusile olunikeza izinkomba zomonakalo nezidingo ze-department. Akunazinombolo zokuthi zingaki izikole ezintsha ezizokwakhiwa okusho ukuthi alukho uhlelo lokwakha ngaphansi kahulumeni kaRamaphosa. Akunazibalo zokuthi zingaki izikole ezolungiswa njengoba ibone zonke nje. Kuzolandelwa kuphela izikole eziwu-55 kodwa kube kunezikole eziwu-23,000 ukuthi iziphi ezinikeza ama-toilet ahlanzekile. Zakhamizi ezinhle yini engabe lisayilindile ukubona ukuthi lezi izehluleki okumele zikhishwe kuhulumeni. Lolu hlathomala kahle luthi ubupha abuhlume nokhula. Izikole azibone ifikele ezithanda khona. Akulambi ingane elambayo. Akufe ofayo kwezokuthutha abantwana ezikoleni. Luthi abantwana bamukele izimpethu njengengxenye yempilo yabo. Abakhala ngemisebenzi abazibonele njengoba kwasho uMantashe. Ngithi mina banikeni impendulo ethi nintshontshe kokugcina maselandini uyeza umkhonto wesizwe uzosikhulula nanti ithuba ngoNovember 4. Iqembu lemkhonto lithi ezemfundo zibe mahala, imfundo ayilethwe ngolimi lasekhaya. Imfundo ayakhiwe phezu kwesisekelo som-Afrika. Makuqathe othisha, makwakhiwe izikole zamakhono lapho singekho khona, makulungiswe zonke izikole ezibolile, makufakwe
member,
amanzi lapho angekho khona
honourable
nama-toilet.
Order, honourable
Umkhonto
member. Time has expired.
umkhonto wesizwe uyayirejecta le budget.
Honourable
Honorable Speaker,
order. Honourable members. Before we proceed, may I remind members on the virtual platform that you must please remain muted until you're recognized. Honourable Reddy on the virtual platform, do you want to be recognized?
yes, Honorable Speaker, I had my hand up. Somebody on the virtual platform was interrupting the speaker while he was making some very important points. I missed those points. Can you allow him another 2 minutes to repeat the last 2 minutes of his speech, please?
Yeah, no, Honourable Reddy, here's a bit of good advice for you. All of these debates are on YouTube. You can go and watch it there again. The next speaker is the Honourable Jordan.
House Chairperson, we dream of a society in which every South African, whether they are from Ezamokuhle or from Camps Bay, is able to reach their full potential if they take advantage of the opportunities that are available to them. This is what the DA calls an open opportunity society. The realization of this dream begins with education, the bridge between poverty and possibility. The success of this budget will not be measured by the money spent, but by children being able to read and calculate, schools that are able to keep their learners safe, and families that are able to build a future. We welcome a strong focus on literacy, numeracy, and early learning outcomes. We note financial backing towards early grade reading assessment that will assist in preventing long-term learning collapse and mother tongue-based bilingual education finally seeing the light of day. Research consistently proves that mother tongue education in the foundational years can contribute critically to the abilities of a child. Children learn faster, retain more information, and develop cognitive skills when they are given the opportunity to learn in their mother tongue in these formative years. We know from the Pearls assessment that nearly 81% of learners aged 10 are unable to read for meaning. If we're serious about addressing the literacy crisis, then we must support learners in the language that builds comprehension and confidence as far as practically possible. Perhaps someone in another portfolio might disagree, but to me, a consistent focus on ensuring learners read for meaning by grade 4 is arguably one of the most important priorities that government can pursue to ensure future economic prosperity. We also see marked improvements in regulation and strides in the movement towards universal access for young children to early childhood development initiatives. ECD centers built across the country by mothers and gogos, remarkable people in communities, providing for young children with safe spaces to learn, eat, and grow, have been enabled through the Banapele registration drives. More children are starting their education journeys in ECD centers with government support than ever before. The DA welcomes the continued allocation of the 24 Rand per child per day subsidy, but I don't think anyone can argue that this is simply not yet enough. The DA will continue to advocate for greater investment into early and foundational learning. Hungry children cannot learn. A critical undertaking in this sector is the National School Nutrition Program. Millions of learners rely on this program every single day. For these learners, this is not merely a meal at school, but the reason they're able to learn anything at all. An astonishing number of learners are reached by this program, combating the malnutrition crisis in a country and supporting learning at an incredibly personal level. There remain, however, serious concerns. Cabinet approved cuts to the school infrastructure backlogs grant, the education infrastructure grant, and workbook allocations risk worsening overcrowding, infrastructure backlogs, and affecting educational quality that can be felt at a classroom level. A watchful eye is required over conditional grants. Implementation capacity varies dramatically across provinces, with some provinces yet to prove that they can be trusted with public funds. The crisis in education is not policy failure. It is years of political neglect that has led to administrative collapse. We see this when provinces like the Eastern Cape fails to pay schools their shares, forcing them to close their doors. In procurement scandals in Mpumalanga, and when financial mismanagement in KZN results in this province needing a babysitter for their spending. The DA is deeply concerned about school safety. Schools should not be crime scenes. While the ministry has made significant strides in reimagining how school safety is approached nationally, provincial departments continue to undermine these efforts despite crime statistics continuously highlighting that learners are being raped, assaulted, and even killed on school grounds quarter on quarter. In Gauteng, over 270 security personnel posts in high crime areas were cut due to funding constraints. What's this province prioritizing if not the safety of its learners? Parents should not be worrying about school projects, but parents should be worrying about school projects and sport matches, not whether their children will return home after a day at school. 2025 saw a record-breaking 88% pass rate. Now we are also beginning to see what outcome-driven governance under the DA looks like within this department. Increasingly, strategic plans seek to reduce bureaucracy and focus instead on impact. Whether children can read for meaning, numeracy improves, schools are safe, learners are fed, dropout rates decline, and educational quality competes internationally. Now we need provincial departments and administrative staff who inappropriately spend their time focusing on political matters instead of brainstorming how to solve the literacy crisis to get with the program. Recently, Minister Gwagube has requested an investigation into a textbook tender that took the media by storm. Somehow, critics in the portfolio and the department understood this as meddling rather than a demonstration of ethical and honest leadership. If this isn't saying that some people are spending time in political study groups and seriously being worried about looming lifestyle audits, then I don't know what will. The DA will continue supporting clean governance, accountability, private sector partnerships, innovation, and evidence-based reform in education. Hope is inspired where we see these principles coming together. It's our obligation to ensure that education is supported by resources because it remains the greatest equalizer, the greatest tool to break cycles of poverty permanently. If we get this right, if we build strong foundations early enough, we will change the future of our country and create an open opportunity society for all.
Honorable Shikwambana. Honorable members, may I request members who's next to speak to join us here in front. It's clear that whenever a member just needs to move from their seat to the podium, other members think it's time for across the aisle engagements. So please assist us all with some order by joining us in front.
Yeah, let's
if you're
continue,
next to
Chair.
speak.
Thank you very much.
Please proceed, honorable member.
Thank you, House Chair. House Chairperson, the economic freedom fighters reject budget vote 16. We reject this budget vote because the Department of Basic Education is no longer only facing a crisis of infrastructure, literacy, and inequality. It is now facing a crisis of credibility under the Democratic Alliance Minister, Sivue Kwarube. South Africans were told that when the DA enters government, professionalism, merit, and clean governance will finally arrive. Instead, within months, Parliament was already dealing with allegations of political interference, manipulated recruitment processes, withheld documents, and procurement controversies. Chairperson, the Director General himself confirmed before the Parliament that supporting recruitment documents prepared for the Portfolio Committee were withheld after instruction from the Minister herself. That is the Minister attempting to obstruct Parliament oversight. The committee further had evidence that independent panel outcomes in senior appointment were ignored and lower-ranked candidates were preferred over better performing candidates. But even worse, the minister's office sent external CVs directly into HR recruitment process after applications had already closed. Ordinary South Africans apply through formal system, attend interviews, and follow procedure. But inside the Department of Basic Education, politically connected individuals get CVs hand-delivered from the minister's office itself. South Africans were told for years that cadre deployment destroyed institutions. Now the DA sits in government and behave exactly the same way. Cadre deployment of the DA is the one in blue t-shirt and Model C accent. Chairperson, the foundation phase national catalog controversy has exposed the deeper road inside this department. The department only became concerned after it was exposed publicly. The department reduced approval titles from 8 to 3, dramatically increasing the financial and commercial value of inclusion in the catalog processes. How do you justify awarding a 285 million textbook tender to a company registered 3 days after contract specifically were issued? The department's own presentation confirmed that once quality thresholds were met, price becomes decisive. Suddenly, when the poor black children are involved, quality becomes negotiable. Minister Gwarube, referring this matter to the National Treasurer, does not absolve you of accountability. You cannot continue to hide behind Treasury and media statement while Parliament demand answers. You remain politically accountable for the conduct of the Department of Basic Education. Chairperson, while the department is consumed by scandal management and media demand control, the real crisis inside schools continue. Every year, more than 500 learners disappear from the schooling system. Yet the department still does not have the capacity to properly track where these children are going. More than 1.2 million children enters grade 1, but only around 600,000 finalists sit for matric examination. Half of these children disappear from the system before they even reach matric. In township schools, violence is becoming normalized for both learners and teachers, while rural and poor schools continue to receive an education completely different from former Model C institutions. The education infrastructure grant exists 16 billion, yet pit toilets, overcrowding and unsafe schools remain normal in our poor communities. Program 3 is dealing with teachers, education and human resource and institutional development declines by more than 300 million compared to the previous financial year. At the same time, online placement system in provinces like Gauteng and the Western Cape continue leaving thousands of learners without placement, while government officials issue media statement instead of solutions. Poor schools still face teacher shortages, collapsing infrastructure, and unequal access to science and learner support. Chairperson, the GNU promised South Africans a governance of competence. Instead, South Africans are witnessing a merger between the ANC arrogance and the DA hypocrisy. South Africa was promised a competent alternative. What we are getting is a blue vision of the same political culture that has damaged the state for decades. The children of the poor deserve better than a government that turns education into another side of political games and procurement scandals. The EFF reject this budget vote. I thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is the Honorable Nkobo on the virtual platform.
Yeah, thank you very much, House Chair. Honorable Chairperson, the IFP strongly believes that quality basic education is the key to a truly equitable South Africa. We cannot hope to build a prosperous future for our nation without properly educating its children. We welcome the debate on Budget Vote 16 as an opportunity to strengthen the state of basic education in our country. We applaud the department's goal of granting 1 million children access to registered early childhood development programs. The first few years of life are crucial for the development, and the government has a responsibility to ensure that each child receives the best start possible. All children are entitled to this, regardless of their socio-economic standing. In light of this, we note with concern the minimal budget increase for early childhood development nutrition initiative. This is a worrying lack of growth considering the fact that nearly 30% of children under 5 years suffer from stunting in South Africa. These nutrition programs are a lifeline for food insecure households, particularly in rural communities. We urge the department to ensure that feeding schemes are both well-funded and effectively run. We cannot expect our children to learn while their stomachs are empty. For them to grow into thriving, capable adults, the department must financially prioritize its early childhood development nutrition programs. In pursuit of this, we call for the implementation of feeding schemes in all South Africa's public schools. We welcome the department's goal of enrolling roughly 140,000 learners with disabilities in special schools. Educational equity has always been one of the party's keystone beliefs. We maintain that all children are entitled to quality education regardless of their capabilities. We are committed to ensuring that no child is left behind during educational reform and will closely monitor the practical steps taken by the department to achieve this goal. Lastly, we note with concern the lack of detail on a learner transport in this budget. Safe transport to and from schools is essential for students to thrive. Children cannot be expected to perform equally when some walk several kilometers through rough terrain while others get driven to school. This is a major structural barrier, and it's our government's duty to ensure that all students are transported safely to their place of learning. We therefore urge the department to take practical steps towards ensuring that all schools have free scholar transport. The IFP approves Budget Vote 16, but it maintains that more practical action is needed to overcome the structural barriers that prevent disadvantaged learners from reaching their full potential. Chairperson, may I say that it's the competency of the national and provincial governments to build schools, not of the IFP in Mtonjaneni. That is misleading. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Honorable Peterson.
Thank you, House Chair, honorable members, Minister, members of the public. The Patriotic Alliance rises today in to debate Vote 16, Basic Education, a vote that is about the future of South Africa's children, yet far too many families are being failed by a broken placement system, overcrowded classrooms, and poor administration. Across our communities, parents are frustrated and desperate. Children are being placed in schools far from homes, forcing families to spend monies that they do not have on transport and placing young learners at risk through unsafe daily commutes. Even worse, Honorable Minister, siblings are being separated and sent to different schools, despite the clear importance of keeping families together. The placement system crisis has exposed a department that is disconnected from the realities facing ordinary South Africans. Parents queued for days, submit applications on time, and still receive no answers. Circuit managers make promises, but communities continue to suffer while children are left uncertain about their futures. Honorable Minister, our schools are overcrowded and overstretched. Classrooms are packed beyond capacity. Teachers are overwhelmed and resources are under pressure. The Patriotic Alliance raises concerns that in many communities, the uncontrolled pressure placed on public schools by illegal foreigners is contributing to the crisis. While South African children are left without placement and without access to quality education, South African learners must come first. Education is not just a budget item. It is the foundation of opportunity, dignity, and national development. When children cannot access schools close to home, when siblings are divided, and when overcrowding continues unchecked, then Vote 16 is failing the people of this country. The Patriotic Alliance therefore calls for urgent reform of the placement system. We need a system that prioritizes proximity to home, family unity, transparency, and accountability, and South African children first. Anything less is a failure to protect the future of our nation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Honorable Dr. Boshoff.
Dankie, agbare huisvoorsitter, agbare minister en adjunkminister. Dubbel medium of enkel medium moedertaalonderrig in Suid-Afrika sal ernstig opgeneem word wanneer mense van hierdie podium af in hulle eie tale praat. Wanneer ons op 'n gereelde grondslag Sepedi en die Suzulu en Xitsonga van die sprekers van daardie tale hier hoor. Want kom ons praat 'n bietjie oor die verborgde kurrikulum. In Engels praat hulle van die hidden curriculum. Dit is die deel wat jy op skool leer, wat nêrens in 'n dokument staan nie. Jy leer dit maar net. Soos, om vir 'n kind te sê, weet jy as individu is belangrik. Wat is jou naam nou weer? Jy leer die teenoorgestelde. Of die ander kant daarvan. Niemand sê ooit vir jou, jy is belangrik nie, maar as jy afwesig is die rugby of die netbalspan nie vol nie. Jy weet jy is belangrik. Dit is die versteekte, dit is die verborgde kurrikulum. Nou deel van die verborgde kurrikulum is dat dit nie help om vir mense te sê jou eie taal is belangrik. Ons wil in jou taal skool gee, maar jy gaan jou taal nooit buite die direkte gemeenskap van jou huis en jou omgewing hoor nie. Jy moet jou taal hoor in staatsdepartemente. Jy moet jou taal kan praat in die hof. Jy moet jou taal praat in die parlement. Nie net kan praat nie, praat. Dit moet vir enige mens noodsaaklik wees om meer as een taal te kan praat, meer as 2 tale te kan praat, om Afrika tale onder die knie te hê. Ek het as 'n skoolkind 'n verpligting gehad van standaard 3 tot standaard 7, huidige graad 5 tot 9, was Sepedi 'n verpligte vak in Transvaalse skole gewees. Dit is die waarheid. Maar as ek probeer het om met Pedi moedertaalsprekers Sepedi te praat, het hulle vir my gelag en Afrikaans gepraat. Ek kon dit nooit leer nie. Ek kon nooit die taal aanleer nie, want dit was net iets wat ek in die skool geleer het, nooit iets wat 'n lewende deel geword het nie. Anderster as my pa wat 'n vorige geslag was, wat dit as 'n moedertaal kon praat en baie goed daarin vlot was. Die punt is dat moedertaalonderrig 'n fundamentele deel is van opvoedkundige beginsels en dat in 1994 daar wiskunde handboeke tot in matriek in isiXhosa gedruk was. Die regering wat in 1994 aan bewind gekom het, besluit dat dit nie nodig is nie. isiXhosa wiskunde handboeke gaan nie uitgerol word na skole nie, want die mense kan mos maar in Engels skool gaan. Hulle kan mos wiskunde in Engels leer. En daai skole, daai boeke, sonder dat hulle ooit gebruik is hulle verpulp, is hulle herwin. Ek weet nie, daar's kartonbokse van hulle gemaak om perskes in te verkoop of iets. Dit is die probleem. Dit is die probleem as mense hulle eie erfenis, hulle eie taal, hulle eie kultuur nie ernstig opneem nie. En dan moet daar nie druk op 'n mens wees as daar 'n ander groep is wat dit wel ernstig opneem en wat sê ons belê tyd, geld, moeite, ure in ons skole om dit so goed as moontlik te kry nie. As ons sê ons belê in ons eie taal en ons wil ons onderwys in ons eie taal hê nie. As ons dit doen met ons eie hulpbronne, dan behoort daar geen druk te wees op ons, omdat daar ander mense is wat ideologies gedra word deur die pan-Afrikanisme en die Afrika-nasionalisme om slegs deur middel van die koloniale taal te werk nie. Ek dank u.
Thank you. The next speaker is Honorable Nkubeni.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. House Chair, there's something deeply immoral about a government that speaks the language of freedom while millions of poor children still learn in conditions many in this House would never tolerate for their own children. We are told that more than 30 years into democracy, we must celebrate progress. But progress for who? Because a child in Sandhurst, or in the minister's analogy, Lindiwe, educational reality as Nelson, child in Khayelitsha, Lusikisiki, Giyani, or Eldorado Park, and Alexandra. One child enters a classroom with robotics, tablets, libraries, and swimming pools. Another enters a broken container with no ceiling, no textbooks, and a pit toilet waiting to become a grave. And then this government has the audacity to speak of equality. Chair Biko warned us that the greatest weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. Today, the South African education system has become a machine that reproduces inequality while pretending to liberate the poor. It teaches poor children to manage poverty instead of defeating it. It conditions them to accept mediocrity while elites purchase excellence privately. That is why the children of the political class never sit in the schools they govern. Ministers know these schools are broken. MECs know these schools are broken. Officials know that these schools are broken. Yet every year they come into this house with polished speeches and statistics that mean absolutely nothing to the scores of grade 4 children who still cannot read for meaning. What kind of freedom produces millions of learners who leave school unable to compete, unable to find work, and unable to escape the poverty they were born into? That is not liberation. That is betrayal wrapped up in democratic language. House Chair, there is a violence more dangerous than guns. It is the violence of denying a child a quality education. Because once you deny people education, you do not need chains to subjugate them. Poverty will do the work for you. And the evidence of this violence is everywhere. Overcrowded classrooms, schools ruled by gangs and drugs, teachers living in fear of learners, young girls violated inside places that are supposed to protect them, children crossing rivers and walking kilometers to collapsing schools while politicians travel in blue light convoys. South Africa cannot continue calling this a crisis because a crisis is temporary. This has become a culture of abandonment. Billions are allocated to education, yet the dignity of the majority of our children remains negotiable in the eyes of the state. They eat tenders, they loot nutrition schemes, they steal classrooms from children. And when the poor complain, government tells them to be patient. But the children of the rich are never told to wait. Action SA refuses to normalize this madness. We reject a South Africa where a child's future is determined by their race, geography, and family income. We reject an education system that produces dependency instead of excellence. We reject a lie that children from poorer communities must forever survive on the leftovers of democracy. And so, to be clear, discipline has collapsed in many schools because leadership has collapsed in society itself. You cannot build a nation when teachers are humiliated, parents are absent, and criminality is allowed to enter our classrooms unchecked. A school must once again become the center of learning, order, dignity, and ambition. And so, Minister and Deputy Minister, let me leave you with this, that education must not merely produce job seekers. It must produce builders of industry, creators of wealth, scientists, engineers, innovators, and fearless thinkers. Because education is not charity, it is justice. I thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is the Honorable, the Deputy Minister of Basic Education.
Thank you so much, House Chair, and greetings to the Minister of Basic Education, Ms. Siviwe Gwarube. Greetings to the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, Ms. Joy. Greetings to the members of the Portfolio Committee who are always present in the meetings to guide and support, and greetings to all the honorable members. House Chair, the journey of education did not start yesterday. The journey to education started in 1955 in Kliptown, when the Freedom Charter was adopted as a vision for a non-racial, non-sexist, and democratic South Africa. On 8 May 2026, we're all celebrating the birth of our constitution, which was adopted in 1996. A constitution rooted in the values of the Freedom Charter, including the principle that outlines the doors of learning and culture shall be opened. These milestones remind us that the struggle for equality and justice continues. Since the advent of democracy in 1994, the education sector was transformed from 19 fragmented and racially divided departments into one unified National Department of Education, which this year would have turned 32 years. In 1994, education comprised of basic education, higher education, culture, science, and technology. The fourth administration took a bold decision to separate the departments in order to ensure a stronger focus on the needs of basic education in our country. Though without challenges, today we reflect on the progress achieved. The transformation of education required deliberate efforts to address historical inequalities affecting both girls and boys. I must indicate that government continues to implement programs that promote dignity, safety, and equal educational opportunities for all learners. Subsequently, the focus was more on the girl child due to the circumstances prevailed and which made them to be previously disadvantaged as girls. Girls were not allowed to do all subjects such as mathematics, science, and technology. The adverse effects of that became detriment to the boy child, who felt neglected and left behind, which led to the unintended consequences. So as the country, we're correcting that, and we're bringing a boy child to be at par. When we look at the statistics, they tell that there are more girls than boys in schools. And when we look at the journey to matric, we expected that learner pregnancy would cause the girl child to drop out, but unfortunately is the other way around. It's boy child that will leave school before reaching matric because of this, when we're addressing the previously events that affected a girl child. So now, led by the Department of Basic Education, working with other departments, we are taking a boy child along to retrieve the boy to where he was as we are lifting up the girls. Legislation remains central to the transformation of education in South Africa. Education is a fundamental right enshrined in the Constitution of the Republic, which guarantees every child the right to basic education. Through the South African Schools Act, government gave effect to this constitutional obligation by making schooling compulsory for all learners from grade 1 to 9, ensuring that every child has access to education regardless of their background or financial circumstances. House Chair, allow me to thank the President of the Republic of South Africa, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, for his pronouncement in 2019 to migrate early childhood development from the Department of Social Development to the Department of Basic Education in order for the cycle of education to be complete. The South African Schools Act 1996 left so many gaps that the sector had to fill with the Basic Education Laws Amendment Act in 2024 to bring total transformation of education in South Africa. The Bella Act enforced grade R to be compulsory. Some of the policies aiming at the access to education by all children of South Africa are the following, among others: no-fee schools. The Department of Education, in its quintiling system, categorized schools from quintile 1 to 5, measured by the level of poverty per area. Hence, the focus was on rural villages and townships where unemployment is rife. This budget is aiming at servicing more than 20,000 schools which are benefiting from the Northeast schools. The LTSM remains central to improving the quality of teaching and learning in our schools. Government continues to invest in the timely delivery of textbooks, workbooks, stationery, and other essential learning resources to ensure that every learner and teacher have the necessary tools to support effective curriculum delivery. Since 1994, government has prioritized education as a tool to confront poverty and inequality. The school transport program was introduced to address the painful legacy of spatial inequality that forced many rural and township learners to walk long distances to school. In some provinces, the budget of scholar transport is attached to the Department of Transport, and whilst in some is attached to the Department of Education. Today, government continues to expand access to education through scholar transport support for qualifying learners, thereby removing barriers to education and promoting social justice. House Chair, as part of expanding access to education, the sector introduced the National School Nutrition Program in 1994 under the leadership of the founding president, Baba Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela, as part of the Reconstruction and Development Program. The program has become a key pillar of government, social protection, and poverty alleviation efforts, supporting over 2,000 service providers, 61,800 food handlers, and 420 provincial monitors nationwide. The National School Nutrition Program, therefore, continues to serve as an important bridge between health and education, improving school attendance, learner retention, and the overall well-being of children, particularly those from vulnerable communities. The Funza Lushaka Bursary Program remains critical in the strengthening the learning profession and supporting curriculum delivery. During the 2025-26 financial year, more than 10,000 bursaries were awarded in priority areas such as foundation phase, teaching African languages, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. To support mother tongue-based bilingual education, the program now prioritizes students specializing in African languages, the Funza Lushaka. These interventions strengthen reading for the meaning, learner comprehension, and educational outcomes. House Chair, the department continues to strengthen learner support mechanism, aiming at assisting learners in identifying suitable career pathways aligned to their interest. Like social cohesion, school safety is coordinated in a multi-sectoral approach that brings together deputy ministers from various government departments, law enforcement agencies, community, and key stakeholders to combat violence, bullying, crime, and substance abuse in and around our school. The sector remains committed to strengthening teacher development to ensure that educators are equipped with the necessary skills to deliver quality education. More than 1.5 billion has been allocated towards teacher education, human resource, and institutional development. House Chair, the department remains committed to improving educational outcomes and ensuring that every learner has access to quality education. Education remains one of the most powerful tools to advance equality, dignity, and opportunity in our country. I want to thank the Portfolio Committee members who keeps us as a department on our toes every time, because they can see the blind spot. When we are facing this direction and they are facing that direction, they are able to see what we don't see. And we really appreciate the work done by the Portfolio Committee. Want to thank also our officials led by the head of department for the good work they are doing for the department. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. The next speaker is Honorable Thring on the virtual platform.
Thank you, Honorable House Chairperson. The ACDP notes the allocation of some 38.2 billion rand to this budget vote and asserts that education remains the single greatest instrument for breaking the cycle of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. However, budgets mean little if funds are not released effectively and transparently. The ACDP remains concerned that the 10 billion rand announced to strengthen access to early childhood development in under-resourced communities has still not reached many ECD centers. Delays in funding undermine the very foundation of learning and disadvantage children before they even enter formal schooling. Honorable House Chairperson, our first national education priority must be ensuring that every learner can read with meaning. Reading comprehension is the gateway to all learning, and learners who cannot read for understanding are likely to struggle across every subject. We therefore need targeted literacy interventions, stronger teacher support, properly resourced libraries, and measurable accountability in reading outcomes. Equally urgent for the ACDP is the restoration of discipline in our classrooms. Educators cannot teach effectively in environments marked by violence, intimidation, and disruption. Schools must once again become safe spaces of learning, respect, and responsibility through stronger partnerships between parents, communities, and school governing bodies. The ACDP believes that every educator must be properly equipped for the modern classroom. Teachers require ongoing professional development, adequate learning materials, and digital resources if we are serious about improving outcomes. At the same time, the ACDP calls for the expansion of vocational and technical schools to better align education with the needs of industry, manufacturing, agriculture, and the private sector. Not every learner will follow a path to university, but every learner deserves a pathway to meaningful employment and dignity. The ACDP welcomes the Minister's referral of the Lighthouse textbook tender controversy to the Public Protector. We assert that corruption in education is a direct assault on our children's future. As kingdom builders, the ACDP believes that if we strengthen literacy, discipline, educator support, and vocational education, we can restore hope and unlock the full potential of South Africa's youth. To our minister, unless you keep your promise to assist young Joshua Peterson that I spoke to you on at least 4 occasions, all your words will sound like an empty gong. I thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Honorable Nontenya on the virtual platform.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Basic education remains one of the clearest reflections of the state of our nation. While the department continues to promise equal opportunities for every child, the reality in many schools tells a very different story. Overcrowded classrooms, infrastructure backlogs, teacher shortages, unsafe learning environments, and poor learning outcomes continue to deny millions of learners the quality education they need and deserve. The greatest inequality in South Africa today is not only income inequality, but education inequality. And this is evident in the growing gap between the department's promises and the lived realities of learners, teachers, and parents across the country. There is also inequality between schools. Those in wealthier communities generally have better resources than schools in poor and rural communities. This inequality affects the quality of education, learner outcomes, access to technology, and extracurricular opportunities. This results in many learners being unable to compete on an equal footing. Some schools experience delays in the delivery of textbooks, stationery, and digital materials. Weak accountability mechanisms continue to undermine the quality of education delivered to poor and working class communities. Honorable House Chair, it is disheartening to notice that the MTEF reduction to baseline and budget affects the most crucial sections such as households, math, science and technology grants, early childhood development grant for infrastructure, education infrastructure grant, HIV and AIDS grant for life skills education. The UTM believes that education remains the most powerful tool to break the cycle of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. Yet, far too many children are still being failed by the system. The department must prioritize the appointment of qualified teachers, especially in rural and township schools, while also strengthening teacher training and support programs to improve literacy and numeracy outcomes. A budget must not only reflect numbers on paper, but the lived realities. I thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Honorable Ghana.
Let's once again congratulate Orlando Pirates for the third time. They are the 3 times treble champions of South Africa. The institution that's Orlando Pirates, more than a football club, it's a way of life. We must equally congratulate your team, Minister, for being African champions. They are flying the flag very hard. But the issue that I want to raise today, Minister, is the issue of school curriculums, because they are political. They are political in a sense that they determine how the next generation thinks, what they are equipped to handle, and what type of people they will be. We all want our children to be critical thinkers who can and will challenge wrongdoing when they see it. We all want our children to be kind to one another, to think about how their actions will affect others, including the generations after them. We all want our children to understand where we come from, to recognize the injustices of our past, and to continue building a united, democratic, and prosperous South Africa for all. I wish this for my children. I want to see them thrive. I want our schools to give them the runway to fly. Schools and curriculums are political because their condition is informed by rooms such as this, and they determine the quality of these rooms in the future. It is a political choice for many schools to lack basic infrastructure. It is a political choice for many classrooms to be filled to the brim with teachers unable to teach and learners unable to learn. It is a political choice to have left our teachers and principals without the necessary support and career development programs. It is also a choice, Minister, to leave our children behind in this fast-paced world. The world is changing before our eyes, and it is doing so exponentially. New technologies are emerging faster than we can regulate it. It's actually a wild west, and we are failing to prepare our children for it. For many in South Africa, the idea of textbook on a tablet or an AI mathematics tutor is a concept as far away as the moon. This department is still failing to provide many of our schools with basic computer resources. At the same time, we are not approaching new technologies with nearly enough cautions. Many new technologies seem so exciting, but studies have now shown how much harm they can cause if not approached correctly. And as we just jump on the latest trend, AI will cripple the next generation's critical thinking skills if we are not careful. Honorable members, we live in a new and exciting times, but we must not forget that the political choices made now will be the foundation of our children's as well as our country's future. Nakenza Mthomashtul, up the bags, once and always.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The next speaker is Honorable Dr. Maimani on the virtual platform.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson, and to our fellow South Africans. it is important to remind ourselves the very purpose of education is both in its intrinsic value in allowing the dignity and the ability of all learners to become critical thinkers. But the second, and perhaps equally as important, is its extrinsic value, which is how do we align the economic potential of every South African citizen. I would argue, honorable members, that in many ways, the original sin of apartheid was the provision of Bantu education, which created duality in our systems, where ultimately some learners were set up to be able to academically achieve, and others, as Verwoerd pronounced, that they'd become workers in farms. So therefore, honorable members, I think what we need to do is when we reflect on this budget is think strategically about how do we reform education so that it achieves the future of South Africa that we want. The first point I want to make to you, Minister, is that I would argue that we need to reform the federalization of budgeting. The fundamentals are, in respect of provinces where there's power given to an MEC, they're able to determine where in certain instances they allocate their budgets. You end up with differentiated sizes of classrooms. You end up with, in certain instances, how teachers are then being deployed. You have profound challenges. The second, to link to the first point, is that when I went to the Eastern Cape, it became quite clear that the Eastern Cape weren't necessarily wanting to invest in infrastructure build as far as they are concerned from an MEC's point of view. And so the net effect is that you end up with a disproportionate allocation of school libraries, where maths and science is being taught, where technology is being introduced. You end up with places where we can read today in stats that more than 500 of our schools still do not offer mathematics, that only 5,853 of our 22,511 public schools have libraries. So, Minister, if we're going to achieve a space where all citizens have an opportunity to prosper, we need to work at how we do budgeting. Thirdly, I want to support your complete view on ECDs, that it is important that a child starts off well. And as I've challenged other ministries, how do we help child support in the first 1,000 days ensures that every child is well fed and able to participate in schools? Minister, you and I would passionately fight against this. We cannot afford these reports on textbooks tenders. We cannot afford corruption in education. It is the place where all citizens participate and they know, they feel the pressure behind it. So fellow South Africans, today's budget must be one that when we look at the fact that 23% of our budget vote, that we must think about how do we enhance it so that the opportunity for education for all South Africans is equalized. It is our lodestar for freedom. We fail at reforming this budget, we'll end up with differentiated outcomes where some are confined that the circumstances of their birth determine their educational outcomes and others don't. Lastly, Minister, let us scrap 30%. It is not just a song. It is something that we must fight for to make sure all learners can compete all over the world. I thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker is Honorable Ismail Musa.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Chairperson, esteemed Honorable Ministers and beloved family of South Africans. In the name of Almighty, the most gracious and the most merciful, I greet all our beloved family of South Africans in the name and prayer of peace. Sanibonani Molweni, Al-Jamaa supports efforts aimed at improving the quality of basic education, as education remains one of the most powerful tools to eradicate poverty, reduce inequality, and build a prosperous nation. While significant progress has been made in expanding access to education, serious challenges remain. Many learners continue to attend schools that lack adequate infrastructure, proper sanitation facilities, libraries, laboratories, and access to modern technology. This disparity between schools in affluent and disadvantaged communities must be urgently addressed. Al-Jamaa in particular is concerned about poor literacy and numeracy levels, school dropouts, bullying, substance abuse, and violence in schools.
Will you just take a seat? There is a point of order on the virtual platform. The honorable member on the virtual platform, please raise your point of order.
Not, House Chair, is it allowed that we wear our caps in the house? Am I audible?
Yes, Honorable Matabutsa, I will rule now. Honorable members, order please. Yes, it is allowable to wear to wear a head cover in the house as we do represent various cultures. Thank you very much. Honorable Musa, you can
Thank you,
continue.
Chairperson, for unity in diversity. Thank you, Chairperson. Al-Jamai is particularly concerned about poor literacy and numeracy levels, school dropouts, bullying, substance abuse, and violence in schools. A safe and conducive learning environment is essential if learners are to reach their full potential. Al-Jamai calls for greater investment in teacher development, early childhood development, and the integration of digital learning tools to prepare our children for the demands of the modern economy. We further urge the department to strengthen partnerships with parents, communities, faith-based organizations, and civil society, as education is a shared responsibility. Special attention must also be given to learners with disabilities to ensure that inclusive education becomes a practical reality and not merely a policy objective. At the same time, let us instill good moral and ethical behavior amongst our beloved children. Let us guide them away from the harms of drugs. Let us remember that every classroom is an investment in our nation's future, and every child deserves access to quality education regardless of their background or circumstances. Let us be guided by the principle that quality education today, a prosperous South Africa tomorrow. No child left behind, no school left undeveloped. A nation that invests in education, invests in peace, prosperity, and justice. Malibongwe!
Thank you. The next speaker is Honorable van der Walt.
Honorable House Chair and colleagues, our vision is a schooling system that prepares our children for life and the economic world, enabling them to live lives they value as contributing citizens, no matter who they are or where they come from. Important is that our minister strongly advocates for mother tongue-based bilingual education, correctly identifying it as a critical tool for cognitive development, deep comprehension, and academic success. A child's home language is vital to learning. Literacy and numeracy is critical from foundational phase. If our children cannot read for meaning by the age of 10, we will not be able to grow our country's economy. On the 12th of January, Minister Sifiwe Gwarubi announced the results of the 2025 matric class. This was the best overall results in South Africa's history, achieving an unprecedented national pass rate of 88%. We should be able to measure success through quality alongside quantity, bachelor passes, throughput, and gateway subjects, and ensure the system prepare our learners for meaningful post-school opportunities. If the MK would listen, they can also listen for meaning at the end. The complete shift from simplistic matric pass rate politics is non-negotiable. It is important that a credible matric certificate must represent readiness for life after school and not simply survival within the system. A fundamental back to basic is that teachers should spend most of their time in class teaching. Taking them out of class for union meetings or administrative paperwork is taking time from our children's learning and their future. And for some political parties should read the Schools Act for meaning as well. You cannot campaign while children should be in the class on school grounds. The recent foundation phase catalogue process has raised the question of procurement integrity in public education. It necessitates the urgent refocus on accountability and clean governance. The quick reaction and call for an independent investigation by the minister was supported widely across the sector in the whole of our country. Any corruption in education is a direct theft from our children. Provincial allocations in this budget remind us to focus on the importance of fiscal discipline. It is the bulk of the budget but also confronts us with the reality of continuous provincial financial instability. The non or late payments of school allocations can under no circumstances be allowed. In Limpopo recently, the High Court in Polokwane issued judgment for payment to Spitskop Special Needs School. Did the province act immediately? No. Did they care? No. Who suffered? Our most vulnerable children who are in daily need for these allocations to be paid on time. Only after intervention from the National Department, some action started. This cannot be accepted. Financial mismanagement in education is not abstract. Our children experience it directly. The minister should be congratulated and supported for the bold reform strategy she initiated in her department. We must be honest and transparent about the challenges, serious about accountability, and remain focused on long-term system improvements. South Africa's future will ultimately be determined by whether we build strong foundations for all our children early enough and effectively enough. I thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Honorable Makakula.
Honorable House Chairperson, Honorable Minister and Deputy Minister, Honorable members, the people of South Africa, I greet you all. We situate this vital budget vote under the theme addressing infrastructural quagmires and bridging the digital divide for learners of the future. The budget vote, as reflected in the APPs of the department and its entities, is not merely a fiscal instrument. It is a moral contract, a promise made to the millions of South African children whose futures are shaped every single day by the conditions in which they learn. And at the heart of this contract lies a persistent and deeply troubling reality. Far too many of our learners still learn in environments that are unsafe, undignified, and wholly incompatible with the aspirations of a free and democratic South Africa. Ukuqedwa kwengqalasisinda engaphandle esikoleni kuyinto esequlwini kuhulumeni kazwelonke. Ukuqhubeka nokuba khona kwezindlu zangasese zemigodi, izakhiwo zodaka kanye nemiklamo yengqalasisinda. Thank you, ma'am. Yokuthuthwa kwendle angeke azikho ezingeni kuso planning and accountability. Despite progress under programs such as the Accelerated Schools Infrastructure Delivery Initiative The pace has not matched the agency. We cannot speak of quality education while learners risk their lives simply by attending school. The tragic incidents associated with unsafe sanitation facilities are a stain on a collective conscience, and they demand more than consequences. They demand action. The increased allocation for infrastructure signals the government is committed to resolving the backlogs. The ANC strongly calls on the department to set clear, credible time frames, guided by reliable data, strict timelines, and consequence management for non-compliance. Plans without accountability are not plans. They are promises waiting to be broken. Because of the caring, listening government led by the ANC, additional funding was made available to rehabilitate schools affected by the storm damages. Education remains an apex priority, not in words, but in action, while others are still theorizing. Honorable members, equally critical to learner success is the strengthening of the National Nutrition School program. The NSNP, as outlined in the department's APP, continues to reach millions of learners daily, and its importance reaches far beyond numbers. For many of our children, this program is the difference between hunger and hope, between disengagement and concentration. As a great scholar, Amartya Sen reminds us that development is fundamentally about expanding human capabilities. A hungry child cannot fully exercise their capability to learn. Strengthening the NSNP requires not only sustained funding, but improved supply chain management, community involvement, and nutritional quality. It must be shielded actively and without compromise from the corruption and inefficiencies that have undermined it, particularly in provinces such as KwaZulu-Natal, Northwest, and Limpopo, where there are serious discrepancies in the administration of the program. Chairperson, education does not occur in a vacuum. Learners arrive at school carrying the weight of poverty, violence, and social instability. Ukuhlinzwa kwezithuthi zabafundi akulingani kuzo zonke izifundazwe, ikakhulukazi ezindaweni zasemakhaya lapho abafundi behamba amabanga amade ngaphansi kwezimo ezingaphephile. Psychosocial support services remain insufficient, leaving many learners without the emotional and mental health support they desperately need. School safety is equally alarming. Bullying, violence, and gender-based violence within our schools threaten not only individual learners, but they also threaten the integrity of education system itself. The department's APP rightly prioritizes safer schools, but implementation must be strengthened through genuine intersectoral collaboration with social development and law enforcement. The building of safer schools resonates with Paulo Freire, who argued that education should be a practice of freedom, not a site of fear. Our schools must be spaces where every learner feels safe, valued, and empowered. Honorable members, the ANC strongly believes that infrastructure is the physical foundation of education and digital access is its future. Yet the digital divide remains one of the most significant barriers to educational equity in South Africa. While some learners benefit from connected classrooms, devices, and digital content, many others, particularly in rural and township schools, remain excluded from the digital world entirely. Bridging this divide requires coordinated investment in connectivity, ICT infrastructure, and device provision. The COVID-19 pandemic exposed with devastating clarity the depth of these inequalities. We cannot allow those inequalities to define the next generation. A digitally inclusive education system is not a luxury, It is a necessity for participation in a modern economy. The African National Congress has emphasized the importance of the digital economy in its policy resolutions. Education must be the entry point into the economy for all learners, not just the privileged few. We advocate for the increased and sustained funding needed to make a reality. People of South Africa, this budget vote also advances a critical conversation in addressing youth unemployment. We must also confront the limitations of a one-size-fits-all academic pathways. It advances the implementation of the three-stream model and strengthening of technical and vocational pathways that are essential to diversifying opportunities for young people. The introduction and expansion of technical subjects, skills-based curricula, and industry partnerships must be accelerated. As the 2022 ANC conference resolved, our learners must be equipped not only with theoretical knowledge, but with practical skills that respond to the real demands of the labor market. This resonates with the work of Levi Vygotsky, who reminded us that education must prepare learners for real-world participation, not just examination success. Honorable members, none of these priorities can be achieved without addressing a persistent and corrosive challenge: corruption and financial mismanagement, procurement irregularities in infrastructure delivery and textbooks. Procurement continue to divert resources away from learners. Delays, cost overruns, and substandard work are the predictable consequences of weak oversight and absent accountability. Every rand lost to corruption is a rand stolen from a child. Strong governance, transparency. We say no to corruption precisely because over the past 2 years, since the mother of Lindiwe and Nelson took over, we have seen bizarre occurrences, among others, like irregular recruitments and flawed textbook procurement of individuals and alliance benefit. But angeke sithule uma inkohlakalo ibhidlanga kulo mnyango wezemfundo. People of South Africa, this budget presents us with opportunity, not a thinker at the edges, but to act with a boldness that this moment demands. It calls on us to move beyond incremental progress and embrace bold, decisive. We must eradicate unsafe infrastructure with agency, not excuses. We must nourish learners through a strengthened, corruption-free NSNP. We
Honourable
must
Member,
safeguard learner.
Your time has expired.
The ANC do support this budget.
Thank you. The last speaker is the Honourable Minister of Basic Education.
Chairperson, allow me to begin by thanking members who participated in this debate constructively, and those who recognize that actually the future of South Africa will be ultimately determined by the quality of education that we provide to our children. Many of these members raised issues around infrastructure, overcrowding, scholar transport, safety in schools, and these are valid concerns, honorable members, and ones that we take very seriously and we prioritize them. Honorable Ngobo talks about the issue of scholar transport, and I want to assure him that while this is the responsibility of provinces, we are working very hard to make sure that we revisit the model of scholar transport to make it safer, to make sure that learners are transported safely. Today's debate also confirmed something that I think is quite important. There are those who are serious about reforming education and those who are comfortable with performing outrage than confronting reality. I think the most disappointing of them all is Honorable Shikwambana, who came here and spent 5 minutes opining about a phantom corruption in my office, which despite his best efforts with his friends was proven untrue, even in a political witch hunt in the portfolio committee. He further went on and moaned about my
Minister,
accent, which
will
has
you- Honorable
absolutely
Minister,
nothing to do with
will
it.
you
So my accent has
please
nothing
take
to
your
do
seat?
with
There is a point of order. Honorable Shivambu, will you,
Yeah.
do you have point of order?
Yeah, I don't know what the minister is talking about.
Honorable,
Because she knows very well that we have taken the matter to the public protector for investigation. Who proved the matter to be wrong? Because she's lying, she's misleading the nation. The matter is under public protection.
Honorable Shivambu, that is not a point of order. You had,
Wait.
you, that is not a point of order. You had your chance in the debate. That is not a point of order. Honorable Minister, please continue. Honorable Member.
I wanted to ask the minister who are the friends of Honorable Mangde Shugombane.
Can you just repeat?
I want to ask that who are the friends of Honorable Shugombane, because we are colleagues and we are members of parliament and not friends there.
Honorable Member, thank you, but that's not a point of order. Honorable Minister, will you continue, please?
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Shikwambana knows who his little friends are and what they seek to do. But despite their efforts, none of this has proven to be true. But nonetheless, he also further started moaning about my accent instead of speaking about real issues facing real children in the education system. And I want to make I want to make this very clear. No matter how much you yearn for it, I will never allow catered deployment to happen under my watch. And that's and no matter how much
Honorable members, honorable members, honorable members, you cannot, can I just remind the House that you are all out of order. The rule is you cannot drown the speaker. Please don't, honorable members, you cannot yell all together. That is unparliamentary and it shows more of your discipline than anything else. Please, no, don't shout at me. Put your hand up. Honorable Member, this is the third time that you're shouting from your chair without putting up your hand. And you're doing it again. Please refrain from that kind of behavior. I will not tolerate it anymore. You put your hand up. You can interject. You do not drown out the speaker. And honorable member here on the ANC side, please. Is there a point of order on this side? Honorable member, your point of order.
Honorable Chair, thank you so much. The minister referred to, Honorable Shikwambane and his little friends. It's not parliamentary to use such language. Not only that, the fact that we are debating in the House, when we find an issue that is heated, we will react with an emotion of passion to engage. We're not really haggling or trying to drown. It's a point that we are raising. Honorable Minister, please give honor to the House. Thank you so much, Chair.
Honorable member, as far as I know, to refer in that terms is not unparliamentary, but we will listen to the table and rule on that. When it comes to the emotions, everyone in this House, in any debate, become emotional at one or other stage. But unfortunately, we have the set of rules. And what is happening from time to time in this House is against these rules. You cannot drown out the speaker, you cannot speak it all at once, and you can't start yelling as if you're at a rally, because this is Parliament. And here we have a code of conduct, and you're there for an honorable member of Parliament. I just want to remind you. Thank you very much, Minister. Please continue.
Honorable Chairperson, I just want to assure the members of this House, no matter how much some may yearn for it, I will never allow catered deployment under my watch. I will never allow theft to happen under my leadership. Those who wish to steal from the 13.7 million learners in our country will have to come through me first and they will find me ready. The budget votes, this budget votes.
Honorable Minister, will you please take your seat? Honorable Member, your point of order.
Person, there is a point of order that has been raised and you haven't ruled on it. Uyakhuluma.
Thank you very much. I just
can't call each other.
consulted the table and my ruling was correct. To refer to a person as a little friend is not unparliamentary. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Minister, you can continue.
We are members of parliament, we are honorable members, or we are Mr. or Miss or Mrs. You can't call us your little friends. Who is little friend here? It's unparliamentary, she must apologize. She must
Honorable Member,
apologize.
I've made the ruling. I'm not going to take any point of order on this point any further.
refer to us as
If you
members.
do not, if you do not,
Little ones, yeah.
if you do not agree with the ruling, you can write to the Rules
We are
Committee.
members of parliament, not little ones. We are
Honorable
not little
Member,
ones.
I've already ruled. Honorable members, I'm not going to take a point of order on the same point. If you raise a point of order on a different issue.
Honorable Speaker,
Honorable
please
Member.
look at the
Thank
virtual
you very
platform.
much. Thank you very much, Chairperson. I want to check if the Honorable Little Minister is willing to take a question.
Honorable Minister, are you prepared to take a question?
No, Chairperson, I've got to get through the speech because the people at home are ready.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Will you please take your seat because there was another point of order?
Ngiyabonga House Chairperson. Uyathi ukuthi problem yakho yini? Ngile microphone yakho ine echo awuvakali mokhuluma. Bacelele bakulungisele yona. Noma wena ama ruling asakuva ukuthi uthini ngala ma ruling. Bacele bakulungisele le microphone. Akuncedi angeke uze preside over. Kanti wena lo ukhipha ama ruling asakuva mawukhuluma. Akuncedi lo kwendako.
Honorable Member. Honorable members, please. Honorable Member. That is not a point of order. This is a frivolous point of order, really. Honorable Minister.
Honorable Chair,
Honorable Member, we are in this plenary for the past 1.5 hours. And never before was there a problem. Honorable Minister, will you continue, please?
Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair.
Minister, you can continue.
Honorable Chair, my hand is raised. I'm on the
Honorable-
virtual platform.
Honorable Reddy, what is your point of order?
Honorable Chair, the members are referring to the rule which states that honorable members must be referred to as honorable or Mr. or Miss or Mrs. That's what they're referring to. No one can refer to another member as little boys and girls. So I think that is
Honorable
where
Reddy,
the rule
Honorable
needs to
Reddy,
be applied.
maybe you were
Thank
not
you.
listening. Honorable Reddy, maybe you were not listening on the platform. I already made a ruling. That ruling stands. Anyone in this plenary that is not happy with that ruling can write to the Rules Committee. Thank you. Honorable Minister, you can continue.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. This budget vote is not built on slogans, Chair. It's built on measurable interventions. We want to expand ECD. We want to strengthen literacy and numeracy. We want to support our teachers. We want to improve accountability and want to stabilize provincial financing. And these are not abstract ideas. These are reforms that are already underway, Chairperson. But what I found also particularly interesting is that some members spoke about the crisis in education as though it was something that arrived 2 years ago. They speak as though overcrowded classrooms, pit toilets, financial instability, weak learning outcomes emerged overnight. However, Chairperson, South Africans know better. The reality is that this administration is the one that is turning things around. The 7th administration is committed on turning things around. Honorable Mkhize conveniently forgets that under the leadership of his honorable leader and the 9 wasted years, people were couriering money in black bags, literally leaving homes from state money and from state coffers. You don't get to come, you don't
Honorable members,
you do not
Order,
get to
order,
lecture us about
order,
what should be happening when your very
order,
own leader
honorable members,
and
honorable
order,
minister,
the
honorable
blood
minister,
of
order,
public funds in this country. You don't
order,
get
honorable lady,
Point of
honor,
order, Chair.
order,
The
honorable
speaker is
minister,
just out of
honorable
order.
minister, will you please take a
The
chair?
speaker is just out of.
Honorable, the members on the virtual platform, honorable Reddy and any other member, if you are going to call out order, or anything from the virtual platform without putting up your hand, I will mute your mics.
But the hand is raised,
Honorable
Honorable.
Reddy, I did not give you a point of order. I am still speaking. You are contributing to chaos in this house. I will not tolerate that. If you have a
But she's
point of order, you can
chaotic.
raise the point of order now.
Thank you very much. The minister is bringing a topic which is unfounded. She is misleading the House. She needs to bring that as a substantive motion if she wants to make allegations against any former administration and such serious allegations which are totally unfounded. So she needs to bring that as a substantive motion before the House, Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
Honorable Reddy, that was no point of order. That was a point of debate. And you was not on the speaker's list. Honorable Minister, you can continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I think the issue around black bags was one that was ventilated and is well documented in our South African history. I think if you pick up
But I think she
Zondo
was.
Commission report, you will be able to read very clearly who was picking up the black bags and who was being bribed and where. So you don't get to come and lecture us here about what ought to be done. You are literally the ones who were plundering the country for 9 wasted years. So that it doesn't get to a hold. What matters now? What matters now is that we must confront realities.
Honorable Minister, Honorable Minister,
This
will you
minister,
please take your seat. Honorable Member, your point of order.
Honorable Chair, thank you so much. I think the minister is confused. She keeps referring to people as you were the ones plundering, referring to us. We were not in government. MKP was not existing. And she keeps making all these references that don't make sense.
Thank you very much.
Please repeat.
Members, honorable members, can I just address you all? Just make sure that you know what is in the rules. If any member speaking and refers to the assembly in general and do not refer to a person specific by name, that is not unparliamentary. If a minister or a member speaking at the podium refer to any member in this house directly, that we would look at that as unparliamentary. If you refer to the friends of a member of this house, the rules cover only the members in this house. Rule 25 covers the members in this house, nobody outside. And that is in general the 3 points of order that you raised in the past 10 minutes. It covers them all. I made the ruling. Can we please continue? Thank you, Minister.
I think what matters now, Chair, is whether we confront these realities honestly and we continue to make sure that we are not relying on rhetoric. And that's the commitment that we have here as a department, that some of the concrete criticism that has been raised not only by members of the Portfolio Committee, but by members of this House, that we are taking them seriously and we want to resolve them. Because ultimately, finally, Chairperson, that the child must remain at the center of this budget, not political point scoring, not ideological grandstanding, not social media outrage. The child must learn in safety. The child must eat at school. The child must read for meaning. The child must leave school with dignity, skills, and opportunity. And that is what this budget vote seeks to build. It seeks to build stronger foundations, it seeks to build stronger schools, and it seeks to build stronger futures. And some of us who are the builders are committed to building that future, and we are not committed to be the breakers in this country. So we will continue to build while you continue to break. It's fine. Hi, are you here?
Oh, can we get some order, please? Can we get some order, please? Honorable members, can we get some order, please? That concludes the debate and the business of this mini plenary session. The mini plenary will now rise.